Hello, future teacher, and welcome to your complete study guide for your upcoming social studies portion of this Praxis 5007 exam. This lesson is going to provide you with everything that you need to know for your upcoming social studies subtest. Without further ado, let's begin. Now, before we start, a quick note about the workbook. See, when you see a highlighted term, just like this phrase, highlighted term, that's bolded on the screen, that's your cue to fill in the corresponding blank to our social studies workbook. So if you're logged in to teacherpreps.com, just go ahead to the Praxis 5007 Social Studies Study Guide and scroll down past this structure of this exam where you'll see this Praxis 5007 Social Studies Workbook and just click open here, and then that will present you with the Google Doc, which you can then click File, make a copy, and then you can go ahead and do what I usually do, which is put it on your tablet device, or you can complete it on your computer, or you can print it. So again, the bolded terms on the video lesson that we're covering today, that's when you fill in the blank, and this will help engage the learning so that you have better recall for exam day. Now, without further ado, let's jump back to the presentation and let's get started. First, it's important to understand that the Praxis 5007 is designed to test your readiness to be a beginning elementary educator by assessing your content knowledge. So there is another term right there. All right, you've got it. Let's keep going. Now, on test day, the social studies section consists of 33 questions, which is about 35% of your total score on the combined Praxis 5007 exam. Because remember, Section 2 is social studies, which this lesson is all about, but Section 1 is that reading and language arts. All right, let's keep it going. Now, this is a crucial point here to focus on pedagogy. Recall that this exam is not just asking you to memorize and regurgitate facts about social studies and history. In fact, 70% of the questions will assess your ability to apply knowledge in real classroom scenarios. All right, now this means that you'll need to be thinking like a teacher. You'll be asked to select materials, identify strategies, and choose assessment methods that are best for the student who's being written about on your test questions. So without further ado, let's begin our content review with the very first major topic, history. Let's get started. The most fundamental skill in history is chronology, which, as you can recall, is simply putting events in the order they happen to understand cause and effect. For your exam, be clear on these terms. So we have BC versus BCE, and this is before the year 1, and AD/CE is from year 1 onward. It's possible to see tricky questions around this dating order, and remember that there's no year 0, and the BCE years count down. Now, when teaching chronology, if asked a question on test day, the best practice that you'll want to be looking out for when actually checking answers A, B, C, or D on those multiple choice questions is to start with a student's personal concrete world before moving to abstract historical times. So, a key distinction for your exam is understanding the difference between primary and secondary sources. Remember, primary sources, these are the ones that are first-hand accounts, whereas secondary sources, those are the ones that analyze the primary accounts. Next up, let's talk about source examples. First up, we have a diary would be a primary source, while a textbook that discusses the diary is the secondary resource. All right, now for tasks on teaching questions regarding sources, remember to engage students as history detectives. They always love that when I present that into the social studies classroom, and it's because it engages our students. So what we want to do is guide them to observe, infer, question, and collaborate with each other, and then also corroborate with the sources that they find through the research process. Now, on exam day, look out for questions that test this nuance. A source's classification depends entirely on what you're trying to learn from it. First, let's take a look at ancient China. Your exam will ask you to demonstrate your understanding of different civilizations, different ancient civilizations, and we don't know which one, whether that's going to be China, Egypt, Africa, Greece, Rome, or other. So what I'm going to do is present you with all of the key information that you want to know. Again, make sure that you're filling out the workbook so you have all of this neatly packed in one place. For your exam, associate China with the 4 great inventions: papermaking, printing, gunpowder, and the compass. Next, for ancient Egypt, think about the pyramids and hieroglyphics, and early advancements in science and mathematics. Don't forget the great civilization of classical Africa. The kingdom of Kush was a center for iron and a large trading post as well. Now, as far as ancient Greece goes, this is another important place. Remember that it is the birthplace of democracy, philosophy, and drama or theater. Finally, let's talk about ancient Rome. Ancient Rome is famous for being the republic, having the republican form of government and its legal systems that it's created, as well as its incredible engineering feats like aqueducts. Now, let's go ahead and talk about indigenous nations of North America. And it's essential for your exam that we teach our young learners the information about what happened before 1492. The Americas were home to millions of people in diverse societies, actively shaping their environments. And in the Northeast, we have the different cultural groups. Read the 3 bullet points that you see. Take a screenshot. Make sure you take notes. The motivations for the Europeans that explored here into North America, these are often referred to as the 3 motivations, including God, gold, and glory. The consequences of European arrival, in case you get a question about this on test day, remember that they were catastrophic for indigenous peoples, primarily due to the Great Dying, with mortality rates often ranging from 50 to 90%. Now, this period also initiated the Columbian Exchange, which, to recall, is the transfer of goods and ideas between hemispheres. Be ready on exam day to differentiate colonial approaches. So Spain focused on wealth and missions, France was focused on the fur trade, and England had in mind permanent settlements that they wanted to set up. The central cause of the American Revolution, a phrase that you must know, was the objection to taxation without representation. Now, this timeline shows the escalating chain of events from tax protests like the Stamp Act in 1765 to punitive measures like the Intolerable Acts in 1774 that eventually led to the war. For exam day, remember that the Battle of Saratoga, this was the key turning point that brought the crucial French alliance into the war. Now, after the war, the Articles of Confederation proved ineffective. They lacked power to tax in order to regulate commerce and trade. Then, the Constitutional Convention designed a stronger framework in response to the weak Articles of Confederation. Now it's time to talk about the key constitutional compromises. So we have to know these key compromises that made the Constitution possible. So think the Great Compromise, the 3/5 Compromise, and the addition of the Bill of Rights. Now, the 19th century was a period of dramatic transformation driven by westward expansion, the Civil War, and the Industrial Revolution. The concept of manifest destiny fueled this expansion, leading to the forced removal of Native American nations from their lands. Then, after the Civil War, the brief period of Reconstruction aimed to secure rights for African Americans, but its failure led directly to the era known as the Jim Crow segregation. In the modern era, major Crises like the Great Depression and World War II dramatically increased the role and power of the federal government. All right, now let's go ahead and transition to our second major topic in this lesson, all about government and citizenship. Now, for your exam, understand that the basic functions of government are to keep order, provide public services, and in a democracy, protect citizens' rights.